Today we're going to be working on the B16 and it has an oil leak. In the previous video I sealed off the cam cap because it was most definitely leaking there. I've seen less leakage since I plugged that up, but I also have a problem with my distributor just kicking around oil. I have oil on my plugs on the outside, but I also have oil on the inside. This, it doesn't have too much because I haven't been running the vehicle. I've just been letting it sit, moving it here and there, up and down the driveway, because I knew it had this issue. And over here, we just have oil everywhere. And it is an utter mess. We've got it on the coolant, mismatched coolant hoses. Yes, I do have mismatched coolant hoses. And yeah, oil's just been leaking everywhere. I don't want it to get it on my brand new starter and kill that and fry it. But that is where the Dizzy mounts up. And I checked the O-ring on the back of the Dizzy. Yes, that is a mask. Gotta make better use of them other than sitting on our faces all day. But here's the distributor. I'll show you the back O-ring that tends to leak or go and then cause a leak. You can already see on this one here that somebody already put silicone on there. So I might have to do that again, but I don't think that was the issue. The issue lies deeper inside the Dizzy, and that's what I'm going to show you guys here today, how to take apart the Dizzy and pretty much check out what is going on inside of this distributor. All right, let's get to it. All right, so the reason that I took this apart is because I was getting like a slight misfire, should I say, but it was more on the spark side because the oil was getting inside the distributor on the coil, and it was just causing things to fall out, causing weak spark, probably no spark at some times. So I didn't want to run the distributor with like that and all the oil just fry everything in there. So we're taking it apart and going to see if we can pretty much repair it and get it back on the road. I think it's an O-ring and let's get to it. So you basically just need a screwdriver to take most of these parts apart. This is your negative wire, and this is coming off the coil pack. And there's just two small Phillips head screws. We'll put those aside. Put these aside. And then take off the rotor. It's another Phillips head on the side. If they've been in there for a while, they are hard to take out. So good luck with that in that sense. I've had times where I literally have to break the whole surrounding off and then bang it out or pry it out because the bolt gets stripped. So it gets crazy in there, but good thing is this is not that much. It's easy to replace, and it's not that expensive of a part. It only goes in one way. As you can see here, it has the notch, and that lines up with the notch on the shaft. Put that aside. Let's take out the coil. No, first we need to take out these two Phillips head screws. Now we should be able to remove the coil pack, and this is the unit that gives the spark. So you could see that there's already oil on the outside. That's no good. You see oil on the top. So this is in oil, and that's something you don't want to see. And you can see the oil on the inside of the cap. So this has definitely been leaking oil, and oil and electric components don't go together. So we'll take a deeper look here. Ah, there it is. I see the problem. Let's see if I can get a good look in there for you. You can't see it well on the camera, but there's an O-ring in the back right here, right in the back of the shaft, and that is gone. I'll take it apart and I'll show you guys, but this is what's causing it to leak on the inside of the distributor. So let's go ahead and take that apart. So you're going to want to remove these screws. There's one on the right hand, one on this sensor right here, and there's another one up top, another one on the left, upper left, one on the bottom lower portion of the mounting plate, and then one for your other sensor. So we'll go ahead and remove those. Alright, and this sensor is actually magnetic, so you'll feel it pulling and tugging. Just put that aside. Do this one. Alright. And now you should be able to move this forward, but actually, before you go ahead and do that, there's another component you got to take off on the opposite side. So let me go ahead and show you that. So you got to take this cam off. So I'd get yourself a small pair of pliers or a Tech screwdriver, a flathead one, and you're going to want to take off this ring, or should I say this C-clamp, which is right here. This ring right here, this middle one. And if you see that hole? Literally just going to grab it. And once you lift it up, you've got that lip up, and then you should be able to pry it right off. Alright. There is your ring. Oop. That's your ring. You see that little notch that's cut out for it, that you can wrap it back around. So now that you have that off, you should be able to take this baby out. But there's a piece in there. You just have to push that pin out. There's the pin. Once you have that pin, you set those two aside, and now you're able to take out that cam. And just remember which way it goes in, because you don't want it to flip it to the wrong side. So the same way you take it out is the same way you put it in. So you see the slotted line? That's going to be on the bottom for me. facing the numbers. So what I'll do is I'll mark it. So I'll go ahead and mark it. That way I know exactly where it goes. So I'll mark it right here. And that way when I put that back in, I won't mistakenly install it like that. I'll look at the arrow or the line, so to speak, put that in, put the pin in, and then wrap the clip on, and that'll be secure. But now that we have that off, there's also a little washer. So put those aside and just put them in the same orientation that you took them out. So now you're able to push this shaft out. Alright, so now it's out somewhat. And now we'll go ahead and we'll start to remove this. Haha, I see. Alright, in this case you're going to have to take this off, this sensor. That way you can remove it. So it's just going to be that one and this one over here. That's going to connect to the side. Take that one out. Those are the only two. You should really disconnect. And then just take this one out as well. There we go. So now you can move this aside. And now you'll be able to pull this out. There we go. Just a little help is all it needed. Little push. Alright. So there's your distributor. Pretty much empty. So that's what a distributor is. There's your trigger sensors. One right here up top. And then one below that. And then this is basically your computer. And then there's another trigger sensor. So yeah, all this stuff, you don't want it to get oil on it. You could clearly see that there's oil right at the top of that sensor. That's no good. That's where electrical goes. So you don't want that happening. Oil is not a good thing. And right back here is where I was telling you that O-ring sits. And you'll see it right here. This is actually the O-ring right here. So your O-ring pretty much sits right behind that. And that's where the oil leaks in. It goes right in through there. So this little gasket was the culprit. Alright, so I installed the new O-ring. Just go ahead and plug it back there. Go ahead and move your wires out the way. Alright. just because the magnets, it's going to be a little hard to put in. Just push down, should go right into place. It's really hard, then just get a little rubber mallet and give it a couple whacks. Alright, got my rubber mallet. Give it a couple whacks. Should fall into place. There we go. Alright, just make sure you didn't pinch the O-ring around here. And yeah, you should be good to go. Put it all back together. Alright, and then just plug your connectors back in. One, two. Screw down the bracket that holds this wire in place. That connects to the coil pack. Alright. And then the longer screws, those are the body screws. That's what holds that plate and that shaft down. Because this doesn't come out, as far as I know. If you take it out, good luck to you. So essentially there's just 3 body screws. And you can just hand tighten all these down. It's not that big of a deal. Alright, put the coil pack back in. Put those back in their locations. You can't mix those up. One is square and one is circular, which is one is positive and the other is negative. The circular one is the positive one. The square one is the negative one. Okay. Last but not least, put back on the rotor. Make sure that's down. Set it in a position where you can tighten the screw. Alright, so there's that. Flip that over. Flip that over. Put your washers on there. It's the old O-ring. Go ahead and line it up with the spot that you marked. On mine's, I marked it here, and then it lines up there. So get the pin. This is what holds it in place. And then you get your O-ring, or your C-clamp should I say, and just push it on top and it'll fall into place. Boom, all done. Clip is in place. Clip is in place. Everything is good. Everything lines up. Everything's put back together. Not to mention that I did dry everything off that was contaminated with oil. So this Dizzy is good to go. I did add a little bit of sealant on the O-ring portion that sits inside the body of the Dizzy. So that way it won't ever leak or won't ever come loose So that'll seal off that section on its own. So this is pretty much good to go, and that is how you tear apart a Dizzy and replace the O-ring or seal the O-ring on the back of the Dizzy shaft. And if you need to replace the O-ring here, you simply can just take a flathead, pry it off, and put the new one right on. Or you can do what somebody else did as a temporary fix and just add some sealant around here, let it sit, and you should be good to go. But thanks again for tuning in, guys. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. Thanks again for tuning in with BuiltJ, and you guys have yourself a good day.